It was a day like any other. December 11th, 1994. Philippine Airlines Flight 434, a Boeing 747 soared through the sky. Its destination, Tokyo, Japan. On board, 273 souls, a mix of holiday travelers, businessmen, and families, went about their routines, unaware of the sinister secret ticking away beneath their feet. The flight originated in Manila, making a scheduled stop in Cebu. It was during this layover that the nightmare began. At approximately 11:43 a.m. the bomb detonated. The explosion ripped through the cabin floor, instantly transforming the mundane into a scene of unimaginable terror. The force of the blast centered on seat 26K, killing the passenger instantly. Panic seized the cabin. Screams filled the air as passengers grappled with the sudden, horrifying reality. Smoke billowed from the gaping hole in the floor. In the cockpit, alarms blared, signaling the gravity of the situation. Captain Eduardo Reyes wrestled with the damaged controls. As Captain Reyes fought to control the crippled aircraft, investigators on the ground scrambled to understand what had happened. The bombing of Flight 434 was not an isolated incident. It was a chilling test run for something far more sinister. The mastermind behind the attack was Ramzi Yousef, a terrorist driven by a hatred of the West. The bombing of Flight 434 was part of a larger, more ambitious plan known as the Bojinka Plot. Yousef's ultimate goal was to detonate bombs aboard multiple US-bound aircraft simultaneously. The attack on Flight 434 was intended to test his methods. The investigation would eventually uncover the horrifying truth of Yousef's plans. The 1990s, while a time of relative peace and prosperity for many, was also a decade marked by the growing specter of global terrorism. The Cold War had ended, but new threats emerged. The bombing of Pan Am Flight 103 over Lockerbie, Scotland in 1988 had already sent shockwaves through the world. The Lockerbie bombing exposed glaring weaknesses in aviation security. The 1993 World Trade Center bombing further underscored the reach and audacity of terrorist groups. The attack demonstrated the willingness of terrorists to strike at the heart of major cities. The world was awakening to the reality that terrorism was a global phenomenon. The bombing of Philippine Airlines Flight 434 confirmed these fears. The rise of terrorism in the late 20th century presented a unique challenge for aviation security. Airports, once symbols of progress, were now seen as potential targets. In the years following Lockerbie, significant efforts were made to enhance airport security measures. Metal detectors became commonplace, luggage screening was intensified, and security personnel received additional training. However, these measures were often reactive. The technology available at the time posed limitations. X-ray machines were less reliable in identifying explosives concealed within luggage. Aviation security was engaged in a constant game of catch-up with those who sought to exploit its weaknesses. Amidst the growing concern over terrorism, a new breed of terrorist was emerging, ruthless, cunning, and driven by a fanatical ideology. One such individual was Ramzi Yousef, the mastermind behind the bombing of Philippine Airlines Flight 434. Born in Kuwait to Palestinian parents, Yousef received training in explosives and bomb-making. He honed his skills under the tutelage of seasoned terrorists. Yousef's hatred for the United States ran deep. He envisioned attacks that would inflict mass casualties and cripple the American economy. Yousef's plan, dubbed the Bojinka Plot, involved planting bombs on multiple US-bound aircraft. The bombing of Philippine Airlines Flight 434 was a test run for his grand scheme. Philippine Airlines Flight 434 began its journey at Manila's Ninoy Aquino International Airport. It was a routine flight, one of many that crisscrossed the globe each day. Families returning home, businessmen heading to meetings, tourists eager to explore new horizons. The atmosphere on board was one of anticipation. The first leg of the flight from Manila to Cebu was uneventful. Passengers settled into their seats, enjoyed in-flight entertainment, or simply gazed out the window. The flight attendants ensured the comfort and safety of those on board. Little did anyone know that a sinister plan was already in motion. The Boeing 747 touched down at Mactan Cebu International Airport. For some passengers, Cebu was their final destination. Others remained on board, eager to continue their journey to Tokyo. Among those who disembarked was Ramzi Yousef, who had planted his deadly device during the layover in Manila. He had chosen seat 26K, located over the central fuel tank. The bomb, a sophisticated device, was concealed beneath the seat. It was set to detonate hours later, when Flight 434 would be cruising at high altitude. As Yousef disappeared into the terminal, Flight 434 prepared for its next leg. With a roar of its engines, Philippine Airlines Flight 434 lifted off from Cebu. The passengers and crew, their spirits high, settled in for the next leg of the journey. The mood on board was typical of any long-haul flight. Some passengers dozed, while others lost themselves in books or the in-flight entertainment. Conversations flowed, punctuated by laughter. The flight attendants catered to the needs of the passengers. Captain Eduardo Reyes confidently commanded the aircraft, yet beneath the veneer of normalcy, the clock was ticking. High above the South China Sea, Flight 434 cruised at an altitude of 33,000 feet. The sky outside was a brilliant blue. Inside, the hum of the engines provided a constant soundtrack. At precisely 11:43 a.m., that sense of normalcy shattered. A deafening roar ripped through the cabin. The explosion, centered on seat 26K, instantly killed the passenger occupying that seat. The force of the blast ripped through the cabin floor. The initial explosion was followed by a terrifying silence. Screams filled the cabin as passengers were thrown about. Oxygen masks dropped from the ceiling. The smell of explosives filled the air. Those closest to the blast sustained severe injuries. Blood splattered on the seats and the overhead compartments. Amidst the chaos, instincts took over. Some passengers frantically searched for loved ones. The flight attendants sprang into action, calming the panicked passengers. In the cockpit, the explosion was felt as a sudden jolt. Warning lights flashed on the instrument panel. Captain Eduardo Reyes immediately went into crisis mode. He knew they had suffered a major malfunction. His first priority was to regain control of the aircraft. The co-pilot, First Officer Jamie Herrera, ran through the emergency checklists. The explosion had severed several crucial control cables. Time was of the essence. As the reality of the situation sank in, a strange calm settled over some of the passengers. A shared sense of determination began to emerge. Strangers reached out to comfort one another. Mothers clutched their children close. Prayers were uttered in hushed tones. The flight attendants continued to move through the cabin. They distributed life vests, instructing passengers on how to put them on. The will to live, to survive, burned brightly within them. In the cockpit, a battle of nerves raged. Captain Reyes wrestled with the damaged controls. The Boeing 747 shuddered and groaned. Loss of control cables meant limited maneuverability. Reyes, forged from years of experience, refused to panic. He had hundreds of lives in his hands. Communicating with air traffic control, Reyes relayed the situation. He requested an emergency landing at Naha Airport. Every adjustment was a calculated risk. One wrong move could send the aircraft spiraling. Reyes navigated the plane with a deft touch. Word of the stricken aircraft spread quickly through Naha Airport. Emergency crews scrambled into action, sirens wailing as fire trucks and ambulances raced to the designated runway, their flashing lights painting streaks of red and blue across the tarmac. Medical teams assembled, their faces etched with a mixture of apprehension and determination. Stretchers were lined up, IV bags hung at the ready, and a triage area was swiftly established. Every member of the emergency response team knew the gravity of the situation, and they prepared for every eventuality. In the air, Flight 434 descended through the clouds, a wounded bird fighting to stay aloft. Passengers, their faces pale, their knuckles white as they gripped their armrests, peered anxiously out the windows, catching glimpses of the approaching coastline of Okinawa. The sight of land, of civilization, brought a mixture of relief and trepidation. Relief that they had made it this far, trepidation at the prospect of landing a badly damaged aircraft. The final moments of their journey would be the most harrowing. The next 20 minutes stretched out like an eternity. Every bump, every shudder of the aircraft sent shivers down the spines of the passengers. Captain Reyes, his voice steady, continued to communicate with the tower at Naha Airport. The runway at Naha Airport came into view, a thin strip of gray surrounded by green fields. The landing gear, miraculously undamaged, deployed with a reassuring thud. The plane touched down, its tires screeching against the pavement. The successful emergency landing of Philippine Airlines Flight 434 at Naha Airport was met with a collective sigh of relief. Passengers and crew, shaken but alive, disembarked, their faces etched with gratitude and disbelief. A bomb had exploded on their flight, a deliberate act of terrorism that claimed one life and injured several others. The investigation began immediately, a race against time to uncover the truth and bring those responsible to justice. As investigators pieced together the fragments of the bomb, a trail began to emerge, leading them back to the Philippines. Forensic analysis of the explosive residue revealed a chemical signature that matched samples previously recovered from a series of foiled terrorist plots in Manila. The investigation zeroed in on a network of Islamic militants operating in and around Manila, a group with suspected ties to Ramzi Yousef, a notorious bomb maker known for his technical prowess and his hatred of the United States. Yousef, who had evaded capture on multiple occasions, had become a ghost, a shadowy figure rumored to be behind a string of attacks and attempted attacks. The focus shifted to Manila, where authorities conducted raids on suspected safe houses and interrogated known associates of Yousef. The pressure was mounting, the net closing in on the elusive mastermind and his network of terror. The breakthrough came on January 6, 1995, when an apartment fire in Manila's Malate district led authorities to a treasure trove of evidence. The apartment, rented under an alias used by Yousef, contained bomb-making materials, chemicals, timing devices, and a laptop computer. The contents of the laptop seized from the Manila apartment sent chills down the spines of investigators. It contained blueprints for a far more ambitious and terrifying plot, the Bojinka Plot, masterminded by Ramzi Yousef. A multi-phased plan designed to cripple the U.S. aviation industry. It involved planting bombs on 11 U.S.-bound commercial airliners, timed to detonate almost simultaneously over the Pacific Ocean. The potential for catastrophic loss of life shocked even seasoned investigators. The accidental fire in that Manila apartment had exposed the Bojinka Plot and saved countless lives. The successful emergency landing of Philippine Airlines Flight 434 was a testament to the skill and bravery of Captain Eduardo Reyes and his crew. Their ability to maintain control of a crippled aircraft saved the lives of 293 souls. The attack on Flight 434 and the Bojinka Plot was a chilling wake-up call for the aviation industry. It exposed the vulnerability of air travel to terrorism and highlighted the need for a global effort to combat this threat. The attack forced a reassessment of security protocols at airports worldwide. The bombing of Philippine Airlines Flight 434 catalyzed significant innovations in aviation security. Liquid explosives forced new detection methods. Advanced X-ray machines detect liquid explosives. Stricter liquid transport regulations were implemented. Enhanced training and intelligence sharing improved security. The bombing of Philippine Airlines Flight 434 claimed one life and altered hundreds more. Haruki Ikegami, in seat 26K, became a victim of a senseless act of hatred. The physical and emotional scars endured by survivors remind us of the human cost of terrorism. Yet, amidst the tragedy, stories of courage and resilience emerged. The legacy of Flight 434 is one of hope and the enduring power of the human spirit. The bombing of Philippine Airlines Flight 434 marked a turning point in the fight against terrorism in the skies. It served as a stark reminder that the threat of terrorism is real, ever-evolving, and requires constant vigilance and adaptation. The lessons learned from this tragedy continue to shape aviation security protocols and strategies to this day. The international community has made significant strides in enhancing aviation security since 1994. Yet the fight is far from over. As technology advances, so too do the methods employed by those who seek to inflict harm. New threats, from cyber terrorism to the use of unmanned aerial vehicles, require constant innovation and collaboration among nations. The memory of Philippine Airlines Flight 434 serves as a powerful reminder of the importance of this ongoing mission. It is a mission that demands unwavering commitment, relentless innovation, and a shared determination to protect the skies and ensure the safety of all who travel within them.